Oh, no, don't record that I haven't had breakfast. I'm about to put myself on mute and get my breakfast, okay?
Okay. Good morning, Marie. Good morning, Gerard.
Good morning.
We'll just wait a few more minutes for people to sign in. Morning, Shesh.
Yeah, today morning I said.
Morning, Kiko. Just for those that are already here, I'm just letting you know that we're recording this session. So we're recording it because we're running an event, and so we'd just like to welcome you all. We're celebrating Science Week, and we've been running a series of workshops, Love Food, Hate Waste. So last week's was growing veggies at home, and this week we'll be running the science behind food and the composting and recycling workshop. So I'll just wait for everyone to join in, but yes, the session is being recorded and there will be photos taken as well. So just letting everybody know. And it's a bright sunshiny morning, so
It's certainly.
yes, we're very lucky. So this event has been, we're running this event for Science Week, so we're hoping you'll all enjoy it. What Jimmy has done is he has 2 cameras set up, so you can see Jimmy. Jimmy, do you want to give us a wave?
G'day.
And then Catherine and Jimmy is actually filming Jimmy while he's cooking. So to enlarge that screen, if you wanted to, all you would need to do is go to the little blue square if you hover over Jimmy and Catherine, or Jimmy, and if you press pin, it will make Jimmy's screen bigger for you. So that's just something you can try, and that way you're not squinting to see what Jimmy's doing. So I've just pinned Jimmy cooking so I can see his cooking preparation area. And we have still about 8 more people to sign in, Jimmy. So if we wanted to wait just 1 or 2 more minutes.
Yeah, just wait. It's all right. It's all good.
Okay then.
Yeah. I'll just dry my hands.
14 people.
14 so far. That's great.
14 so far. We've still got about 4 or 5 listed, but I'm just thinking, Jimmy, what I'll do is I'll just introduce you. So Jimmy is a passionate local cook, and he's into fermenting and making food. Jimmy, you're a part of the Cardinia Food Network, is that correct?
Yes, I am. Yep.
Yep. So what I'm going to do is just let Jimmy introduce himself and tell you a bit about what to expect from today. Just letting you know, we will be having a short break between 10:30 and 11:15 for about 10 or 15 minutes, and that's just so everybody can stretch their legs. And I'll pass over to you, Jimmy.
All right. Thank you, Lauren. Welcome, everybody. As Lauren said, I'm a passionate preserver and fermenter. I've been doing that for quite a number of years. I've been involved in the Cardinia Food Network for probably about 4 years. I've attended numerous workshops at the centre there in Pakenham, and they do run some great workshops and some masterclasses. So one of the classes that I attended was because I had a lot of interest in. There wasn't anybody that taught me how to do fermenting, so I was reading on the internet and stuff like that. So anyway, I attended a course that was where Sandor Katz, who wrote this book and this book, which are basically the Bibles of fermenting. And he was pretty enlightening because he talked about the things that happen during fermenting. So that's basically, where my interest is peaked and but a bit about me, I'm a senior design engineer. I work in medical science. I live in Cockatoo. We've got just a little cottage that you see behind us in the kitchen. And we grow our own food as much as we can in our vegetable gardens, which are raised vegetable gardens. The thing about growing your own food is that you can, whatever's coming into the food is the high nutrient level. And so nutrient dense food is what you're creating for yourself. So that was basically what, like I try to eat as much as I can from what we do here. So I also make yogurt, cheeses. I do make kombucha as well. And I've also pickling. So I do pickling as well. So so let's talk a little bit about preserving of food. So I've got a couple of examples here. So I've got this one, which is a can of tin tomatoes. Basically, when you read it, it talks about that there's no preservatives. So it's just diced tomatoes and an acid regulator. So how do they get tomatoes to preserve? And it says, and you can ship them across the world. And these ones say best before December 2023. So basically that happens because you've got the three main.
You want to cook something?
Sorry?
You want to bake a cake or something?
I'm going to bake a cake.
Well done.
But making sauerkraut I'll be making.
No, let's stay inside from it's cold.
So I'm just talking about
There you go. Okay, well. Wait.
Okay, we might have to ask some people to turn their microphones off.
Mine is off.
So the three main hurdles to preserve food are salt, sugar, and acid. So whether it's, like it could be a citric acid, it could be a vinegar acid. So salts, but be mindful when you're getting salt, it's got to be pure salt, not iodized salt. We'll talk about that in a sec. And sugar. So So iodized salt is the same thing. It kills bacteria. So so some of the water that you have, if you're going to do certain things, sometimes it's best to have not use tap water, but to use bottled water or rainwater. So let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. So I'm going to show you how to do a sauerkraut. Like this. So that one I did at the end of last month as an example for today's event. So fermenting is a process whereby the natural bacteria present in and on fresh vegetables utilize the carbohydrates to produce. In the process, they excrete lactic acid. We'll talk about that. You'll notice a theme here as we talk about different things, including making yogurt, which preserves the vegetables and creates the characteristic tangy flavour. Fermentation is carried out by lactobacilli bacteria. A large family of acid-producing bacteria live in soil, on plants, and on the skin and in digestive tracts of most animals. Fermentation was first and foremost a means of preserving. In its original form of pickling, fermentation allows you to preserve and season a season's harvest to enjoy later in the year. So that you've obviously, when you've got all your tomatoes or all your in short periods of time, you can preserve them over the periods of time when you don't have them fresh. So lactic acid functions as a digestive aid. Sour pickles serve at a meal to help whet the appetite and stimulate the production of digestive juices. Lactic acid is also deadly to pathogens. So the only thing in that is salt and what the vegetables themselves created, which is the lactic acid, which is an environment where nothing can live and be harmful. So making and fermenting is the safest form of food preservation. Fermented foods retain their original vitamins, and the fermentation process also increases some vitamins, including vitamin C. Fermented foods have had their complex carbohydrates broken down and converted to organic acids, making them highly digestible. So in a way, pre-digested. So that they're easier for your body to absorb the nutrients. In some cases, you can't even eat food unless it has been processed in this way. So then there's these bacteria are considered to be probiotics, meaning that they can help take up residence in your gut and help bolster your microbiome and therefore support health and improve immunity and allergies, hay fever, etc., etc. So, and detox the gut. So when anybody has medication where it's an antibiotic, what that is actually killing the microbiome in your gut. So the best thing you can do is to eat fermented foods in order to restore your gut balance. So that's it for the moment for that. So now let's get stuck into, if anybody's got their things with them, let's get stuck into doing our sauerkraut. So if you can just throw a hand when you say if anybody's not ready, and we'll wait for anybody that's not ready. I think you've got a little hand symbol on actions that you can put up on the bottom of the screen. But if everybody's ready to go, or you can't find the action, just say, yes, I'm ready to go. So I'll give you a minute and then we'll get started. Thank you, you saw that, that's good. I can't see everybody, by the way. I've only got 4 or 5 little pictures on the side. Okay, so in order for this to work, you've got to create, it's all about the surface area. So we need small surface area. So I'm going to be cutting these chives that I've just picked from the garden to about approximately 10 millimeters long. Make sure your fingers are like this when you're cutting so that you don't cut your fingertips. Next, I'll grab some carrots. I'm using a big glass bowl so that you can see what's going on. I've got a garden waste bin right there. Careful not to grate your fingers. Beans.
So Lauren, did you just want to let everyone know how to pin their screens, both screens?
Yes. Now, as you can see, if you scroll along the list of people here, there is Catherine and Jimmy. So if you hover over that picture, there will be a blue square with 3 dots. And what you can do is pin, and that means you will see Jimmy's hands and the cooking surface. So yes, if you click on just Jimmy, you will only see Jimmy's face. But if you click on the Catherine and Jimmy icon, and I've got a pin on it, so I can see Jimmy actually chopping spring onions at the moment.
Thank you, Lauren.
I've pinned both, Lauren, so I can see Jimmy's face and I can see Jimmy cooking.
Thank you very much. That's great. That's helpful to everybody. All right. So spring onion, same thing. It's all about the surface area that we want to come in contact with the salt that we're going to add later. So these are all about approximately 10 to 12 millimeters long. As much as I know that. Has anybody actually eaten sauerkraut before? Oh, good.
Marie has. Has anybody, Gerard, have you?
I have to. It's yummy.
My daughter has eaten something called kimchi, which I think is an Asian.
It's very similar.
Yes.
Very similar. Yes.
And I must admit, yeah.
And
I
it's
did
all
taste it.
I'm not a fan. I mean, maybe I just haven't eaten some. I'll give it another go, but maybe I haven't eaten any at a place that makes it fresh. Maybe like in a Korean restaurant or something like that. But I've had the stuff from. These are fresh from the garden, by the way. These celery. I've had it in, like, I bought it in a jar, but I'm not a fan.
We've got a local Korean restaurant, Jimmy, and it's
Yeah.
down in Kunang Road near us, and they do beautiful kimchi. I love it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. If you go to a Korean restaurant or a place that does it fresh all the time, I think that's the better. Then you'll get the best flavour, and you won't be put off by eating it in the future. So the celery I'm just cutting into, it's probably a lot less than 10 mil. It's probably between 5 and 6 millimeters.
So Jimmy, the sauerkraut is a good option to align the gut, isn't it? Because of our Western processed diet.
Yeah, that's right. And it changes slightly over like as it's fermenting, you've got it's become, the flavors are becoming more intense over time. So I'll probably do another couple of bits of celery. Another one. It gets more intense. So, and the other thing I was going to say, I've actually done, this is one I did, and this is one that I did earlier in the year with a purple cabbage and beetroot. So the beetroot adds the sweetness because there's a lot of sugar in beetroots. So that's looking pretty good. And these are some pickled tomatoes. So I've got an interesting, I ran a course on how to pickle tomatoes earlier this year for Cardinia. And I've got an interesting story on because the best tasting pickled tomatoes I've had was at a Russian restaurant in down near Caulfield. And every time I went there, I'd always enjoy the pickled tomatoes. And I asked if the chef would give his recipe on how he does the tomatoes, and he said I could come there and enjoy them anytime I liked. But he wouldn't give me the recipe. So then I started searching for how could I find this beautiful, crisp pickled tomato recipe that still tasted flavoursome, and I thought, well, I'll start with, okay, they're Russian, so it's obviously a traditional Russian family secret. So I asked one of my Russian friends if he could interpret the recipes and things that he could find, and that's how I eventually got the recipe for how to do it. So, and again, it's mostly just salt and herbs. But it's in a method called hot preserving. So the top of the jar is compressed because the heat, when it cools down, sucks the lid down off. So they're great. I love those. So that's when I did them.
You're off screen, Jimmy.
Off screen.
Come back a bit.
There you go. How's that? Is that better?
No, you're going the wrong way. That's it.
Okay, 5th of May. And they still look great. That's the last jar. All right, so that's that and that. So now some red stuff. The colour.
I can imagine the smells will be absolutely beautiful with all those chopped veggies.
It is. It smells fantastic in here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shimmy, what have you got in your garden at the moment?
I've got lemongrass. I've got herbs of different kinds. I've got celery, which I've got garlic growing. I've got snow peas. I've got broad beans. I have a native spinach called warrigal greens. That's a fantastic spinach. It's got an interesting history obviously it's an indigenous Australian plant. And when over 100 years ago, when they took obviously lots of native plants overseas, and that's one plant they took to Europe, and they've grown it so much over in France that they actually, under the illusion that it was a native of France. So that was an interesting, they eat it so much over there. So, and it grows as a creeper along the ground, and it's called a living mulch for anybody that did the grow your own vegetables course last week. And you just use it as you would a normal spinach. A little bit of steam, only takes a few minutes to break down the oxalic acid that's in it. And that's it. I've also got native pepper berries growing, finger limes. We've got some fruit trees. And I've got beetroot growing. That's very slow. Carrots. I'm just about ready to start with the peas. I've got them in little pots ready to, so pretty soon I'll be transporting those out into the vegetable garden. And I've started something called a Hugen culture mound for anybody who's interested in gardening. I don't know if that was discussed last week, but that is basically it's a mound that you put in, that you build up over some old logs, and then you cover it with branches, leaves, a lot of like loose garden waste, and then you cover it with a layer of soil so that it becomes like the tree branches and things, all the large ones are in the middle at the bottom. And what that does is the moisture is retained by the tree branches and tree trunks. And then you've got a mound that you can grow things on that you don't need to water. That's the principle behind it. So in that, I've got potatoes growing. And that's where I'll probably grow my pumpkins when they're ready to plant out.
So that'd be very handy if we're, going through drought conditions to know those sort of techniques as well.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. I mean, it's the vegetable gardens that I've got here. We built wicking beds so that we don't need to water them. I haven't had to water them for since we built them, which was over a year ago. So,
Wow.
So, well, a year and a half ago. So, yeah, it's fascinating. All right, that's the capsicum. I was going to throw in some snow peas.
So you can put any type of vegetables into the sauerkraut?
Yep. I mean, obviously, the harder vegetables like carrots, you need to break them down more. But yeah, that's it. So that's looking really good. Now, oh yeah, that's right. I'll do a lime, the juice of a lime. So from a little bit earlier, what's one of the preserving hurdles? Acid.
Can I use a lemon instead?
Yeah, sure. You don't have to use this. I just do it because I like the flavour. But it's one of those, you can use an orange, you can mandarin if you want to add it. It just adds a little bit of acid to help with the preserving of the food. It doesn't need it, but it's just, I like the taste. So I need to get a bigger knife. Now, this is the bit that we have to pay attention to. Because we want to save some of those outer leaves. I've got 2 jars. So I want to have at least 3 of those outer leaves, maybe 4 of those outer leaves that I can save, that we're going to plug the top of the under this lip with. So anyway, I'll cut off a few of these larger leaves and we'll put them to one side. They just, what they do, what we're doing with these larger leaves, we're just using them to hold all that ingredient below a liquid level. The liquid level will happen by itself. You'll see that in a little while.
I can see Stacey cutting.
Oh yeah, good. Yeah, tell me how. I mean, I can't see everybody, but if you can, someone can, like Lauren or someone, just scroll through and let me know if we're going too fast for people. So,
Is everyone able to keep up? Stacey, if you give me a thumbs up.
good.
Awesome. Gerard's thumbs up.
I just had a question.
Yep.
I was a bit slow at the start. Did you grate 3 carrots in then?
I did.
Okay, you're very quick at grading. I was like trying to keep up there, but I've caught back up. Also, I'm using a red cabbage. Is that going to?
Okay. I used 2 carrots.
Yeah. Okay. I've got a red cabbage. Is that going to change any flavours or anything? It'll be okay.
It'll be fine. It'll just be. It'll end up being a little bit darker.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Yep. I can probably manage with those 3. All right. So I'll just cut off this oxidized layer here.
Rosemary's just said that it's sweeter with red cabbage and all. Oh, hang on, where's my mouse gone? And adding apple is nice when using a red cabbage.
Traditionally, you can add the German is basically version of this is who are the famous people for creating it. It's basically just cabbage and apple.
Oh, okay.
And what's coming from the apple?
Acid.
Sugar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sugar. So, all right. So now I've cut those up. I'll move this out of the way. That's looking really nice. So get rid of those big, thick chunk. And so about 8 millimeters wide, something like that. You don't want it to be too thick. Mate, you have saved your leaves, everybody? You've saved a few leaves? Yep, good. You don't want to get too far into it and find out you didn't save your leaves. There is an alternative if it's a problem though. to the point where I won't be able to hold that much longer. See any long bits just from the stalks of the leaves, just they seem to sort of end up, some of them seem to be, even though you're cutting it, they sometimes end up with some long ones. Just cut them up a little bit before you throw them in. Otherwise, you'll end up with big chunky bits later on. Okay. Oops. Okay, that's looking really good. I just finish off these last few. So that's a half a cabbage, a small, not a very big one, just a it was about 150 millimeters in diameter or something like that. Okay. So now I'm going to weigh. I know how much my bowl was before I started. I should have mentioned that. I know that my bowl is 2.5 kilos. So what we want to do is going to add some salt next. So we want to so I've got a 1.2 kilos. So 10%. So that's 100. It's about 60, between 30 and 60 grams of salt. Oh, wow.
So Jimmy, you mentioned before that it's not to be iodized salt.
Correct. Yeah.
What's the reason?
Iodine is a it kills. It's a what's the word for it? It's like chlorine. It kills bacteria. And what we want to happen here is we want the bacteria to grow. So we want to grow good bacteria. And if you put iodine in there or iodized salt, you may end up with it not working properly because the iodine will prevent the good bacteria from growing.
Okay.
All right, so I've put in roughly half of my salt.
Sorry, how did you work out how much salt to put in then?
I weighed my ingredients So I know my bowl's 2.5 kilos.
Yep.
And so I've weighed my bowl again, and I've got now 3.7 kilos. So I need about between 2 and 5% salt. It doesn't have to be perfect. So that's about, for me, that's about roughly between 30 and 60 grams of salt. So what the salt's going to do now, the salt is going to come into contact with all of that surface, and it's going to draw out liquid. So now I'm going to add the rest of my salt.
I have a Himalayan salt in my house. Is that okay to use?
What is it? What kind of salt?
The Himalayan salt.
Well, as long as it doesn't have any added iodine, just read the label and make sure it doesn't have iodine. But then that I can't imagine that being a problem.
Okay.
You're right, Laura, it smells great in here right now. Okay, that's all mixed. So now I'm just going to, now we just basically have to wait for the salt to draw the liquid out. I can see that it's already, I'm looking at it right now and I can see that it's working already. It's starting to, the surfaces of the celery is starting to wet. So move that to, we'll work on that in every now and again. So, because we'll need to go in and massage it and stuff like that. I'll just wash my hands, clean these over there, because we'll want them later. So just do a little bit of cleanup, and then we'll start on the yogurt. And I'll give you a little bit of a read about yogurt and there are some similarities to what we're doing right now, believe it or not. All right.
Jimmy, I was just wondering if now would perhaps be a good time to have maybe a 5-minute break so people can stretch their legs.
Yeah, perfect. Great.
All right then. So it's 10:10. If we all make it back here by 10:15, and we'll start with the yogurt making.
Yep, perfect.
Okay.
Time for coffee.
That sounds good. Coffee.
Thanks, Jim.
That's all right. So yogurt will be next, and we're going to be doing that on the stove and in an esky.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
So we came a little 30 minutes late because we thought it started at 10 o'clock. So we're cutting the veggies right now.
Yep.
Do we just need to add the lemon and salt?
Have you, how small, if you've cut your vegetables nice and small, can you see this?
Yeah.
Okay, as long as your vegetables are nice and small, you can add the salt now and lemon juice or whatever you want.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Okay, it's 1:15 now. I think everybody's coming back.
Very good.
We can see all your ingredients.
Yeah.
That sauerkraut is starting to look really nice.
It is. You can see that, can't you? You can tell it's starting to get.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll work on that in a little while. Just let the salt do its job for a little while.
Yep.
So this is the waiting part for that. All right. Everybody ready to get going on the yogurt? Okay, good. All right. So as so yogurt is also a fermentation process. So we've got some examples here. That's Woolworths yogurt. This is Dairy Farmers yogurt. Both of these have active cultures in them. So we're going to be using this one because there's no more of that. So So there's a whole range of active life cultures that are in yogurts. They've got different names. This one's got Acidophilus lactobulgaris, but there's also Bifidus, Cassie. As long as it's got live culture, you're off to a good start to be able to make a yogurt. So what happens is that these lacto cultures, lactobacillus, lactobulgaris, what they do is the lactose in milk, they eat that and they produce a lactic acid like that. So the salt and the vegetables together combine lactic acid. So what we're going to do is we're going to use exactly the same principle, only we're talking about a dairy product here. So we're going to take half cup. As a starter culture. It doesn't have to be that much. It can be less. So I'm going to put that into there. All right. So now there's a choice here. We can put the milk powder. So what happens with milk powder is I'm going to add. So that's our starter culture. All right. So that's what's going to those live cultures that are in there are going to grow in our process we're doing here. So now I'm going to do the same thing. Last time I made this with about a third of a cup, but it was a bit thick. Actually, I might show it to you. So I'm going to do a little bit less. So this is the one I made just the other day, and I can still stick the spoon up in it. It's that thick. But also, as you can see here, same with this one, but I've mixed it in a little bit. So there's actually some liquid there that's coming out. That's called whey protein. So you can either stir it back into the yogurt, or you can use it in your cooking. You could use that water with your potatoes if you want to do mashed potatoes. So, and then you've got that whey protein in your food. Anyway, so that's what it will turn out like. So I don't want it to be that thick this time, so I'm going to slightly change the amount of milk solids that I'm going to add. Last time I said I used, it was about a third of a cup. So this time, just about a quarter of a cup, maybe a little bit less. No, about a quarter of a cup. Now, we can do this either by adding it to the yogurt, or we can add it to the milk. Most of the time, I add it to the yogurt, and I stir it through, and then I get rid of all the lumps. So I'm going to just mix. I'll just let it sit there for a bit. I'll come back to that in a sec, because it will start to the yogurt will start to wet the powder, and I'll end up with a nice thick paste, as you can starting to see that it's starting to come now. I can just leave that sit there. I'll come back to that. Get rid of the milk powder. Okay. Now we need to those live cultures, those in the yogurt, they're all called what? Thermophile cultures. So I'm going to do two things here. I'm going to show something as well as do something. So I'm going to make yogurt, and I'm also going to show you how to make cheese. So I'm just going to rinse my cup, because I want to use that again in a sec. About half of my 2-litre container. The other half, you won't be able to do this because you'll need the cultures in order to do it. So I'm gonna make a cream cheese. All right. Get rid of these. Oh, no, I did that one yet. Sorry. Cream. Because we want our yogurt to be creamy. Something like that. Just under half a cup. Pour that in. So this is where now you're going to need your thermometer. You got a thermometer? Everybody's no? These are only, this is a cheap one. It's only probably maybe $10 or $15 digital thermometer. Because we're going to have to monitor how hot the milk gets. Because what we're going to do now is we're going to denature the milk. The proteins in the milk, we're going to denature them by heating them up. I'll just put that on the stove on a low heat. And then I'll put my temperature probe in there. And then we'll wait. That's not bad. It's already 19 degrees. So put that over here. Oh, so I'll talk a little bit more about before I go back into mixing again. So this is actually a crock. This is what's traditionally used for doing sauerkraut. So you've got a drop-down lid that sits in a well here. So what the idea of this is, and these little half rounds go inside, and then they weigh down the sauerkraut. And then you put a little bit of water in the top there, and that stops anything from getting in there. So you can buy them, but that's what if you're interested, there's a reason why it's not glass. We should talk about that too. So if you've got it in a window of a kitchen, what can get in through, where is it? So what could happen to my good bacteria if the sun gets on it? UV it will kill the bacteria, so it will prevent it from working. So you want it to be not in the sun. So that's why these type of things are available, but I'm not using it because you guys don't have that. So if you like sauerkraut, want to do it again, then just remember that goes in the pantry later on. All right, so I'll just check the temp. 31 degrees at the moment. I'll stir my milk powder and yogurt base together again. What's that? That. 35 degrees. How's our temperature coming along? Are people making yogurt at the same time, or are they just watching me?
I think most people are just watching you, Jimmy.
All right, okay. So while I'm waiting for that to warm up, I'm going to show you how to make a cheese called Chabuchou. It's a French cheese. So it's fairly simple to make. You could do it at home with very little ingredients. perfect. So this won't be ready until for 24 hours, but like any good cooking show, here's one I prepared earlier. So now this is aromatic mesophile. So now they'll talk to the difference between mesophile and thermophile. So thermophile is the culture that grows with heat, generally above 37 degrees. Mesophile grows below 37 degrees. So I've got with one, so I'm going to use just like, that's called this is a cheese making measuring spoons. That's a drop spoon, just a level drop spoon. So I'm just going to shake that across the surface there like that.
Jimmy, did you store those in the freezer?
The
Mesophile and
the mesophile and thermophile cultures are stored in the freezer.
Oh.
The rennet, which I'm going to add in a sec, that's just in the fridge. But you can buy tablets and make your own.
So where do you buy those, Jimmy?
You can buy them at, there's a place called You Make It. I think they're in Mulgrave. So you can order them. This is something called Mad Millie. That's what they look like, rennet tablets. So basically you saturate them into water. So I'm going to shake that because what happens with it settles, and then if you don't shake it properly, you'll end up with only putting water in rather than the rennet. And I've got a syringe that I've labelled here that they only use for rennet. Just going to take some out. And I'm just going to put just a couple of drops in. Okay. And then I'll put the rest back in. I'll give that a wash and I'll put that away. I don't need that or that. Wash that. Check my, oh, I'm getting there. I'm at 75 degrees at the moment with the milk. So
What temperature does it have to get to?
got to get above 80.
Okay.
All right. Got to get above 80. I've turned it down to lower now. So now I'm just going to stir this through. Give it a good stir. Doesn't take long, but you want to make sure that you thoroughly mix. I put hardly any in, as you saw. It was like just a few drops of rennet and like the tiniest of like a spoon of flavour. And of course, with cheese making, there's this particular type of cheese that I'm making here is called an acid set cheese. So, which is a lot of your short-term cheeses, like your cream cheeses, the soft cheeses, they're generally used very quickly. So I'll just show you how this goes. So that's mixed up enough now. So I'll put a lid on that and I'll just leave that until about the same time tomorrow.
So Jimmy, the things that you put in, what do they do to it?
So the culture is an aromatic culture. The mesophile, which I put in there, but you also can do there's also thermophiles to cheese too. But what they do is they add flavour, sweetness or sourness. So they actually give the cheese its flavour. Oh. The drops that I put in is a coagulant, so that actually just binds the proteins together, and they become curds. So, so now here's one, as I said, that I prepared earlier.
So you can take your curds and put it with your whey, and then itsy witsy spider will come along.
Exactly, exactly. So I'm going to. So you can see that's almost like a yogurt. You know, it's almost the same. So I'm just going to break up the. I've actually got the wrong one. That is my yogurt. Sorry. Sorry about that. I made a mistake. That's the yogurt that I made the other day. Put it over here so I don't make the same mistake again. Here's the one that I prepared earlier. So I'm going to, so it's almost, it looks the same, but you can see that the whey protein, as in when yogurt sits for a while, is coming out as well. So I'm breaking up the curds a little bit because I want the whey to also come in contact with surface area. So the larger you leave the pieces, the sweeter the flavor. So the smaller the pieces of whey when you're making cheese, the firmer and the more sour the flavor, the stronger the flavor. I'll try. I'll put this, I'm going to do that, and I just wanted it to sit, let that sit for a couple of minutes for that stirring that I did just to take effect. So I'll just move that over here, and we'll go back to our sauerkraut. It's time to give it a massage, and I'll check the milk temperature. I'm going to turn the milk off now because it's reached temperature, but I want to do this first because this is an important step. So I'm going to. That's look how wet that is now. That's the effect that the salt has had on drawing as a drawing agent on the vegetables. So just stir them around, and I'm going to squeeze. I'm going to grab handfuls. I'm just going to give them a.
Oh, wow.
See that liquid coming out?
Yes.
So that's it. This is actually pretty close to being ready to put into the jar. If I see the bottom of the liquid coming out of the bottom of the jar in the bowl.
Yep.
Can you see that?
Yes.
Now I want a little bit more than that. So it's just a little bit of a squeeze. Just to help with the, not too much, just like you don't have to crush it. You just want to gently squeeze it. So the salt's really doing its job here, which is what the idea is. Okay, so, and that's a lot, it's not crisp and hard, but it's still crunchy. So I'll just.
That looks therapeutic doing that massaging, Jimmy.
Yeah.
So Jimmy, I just know with kombucha, you don't use metal with it. Is that the same? You only use glass with this?
You can use. I tend not to use plastic.
Yep.
With regard to this type of fermenting.
Okay.
Because I don't know. I follow the rules of everybody else. If they say don't use stainless steel, then I don't do either. Apart from when I was cutting it up, but then I don't have a ceramic knife that I can use. but yes, with kombucha they say not to use metal objects. So I've got a set of plastic and glass that I use. I'll just wash my hands. I'll get onto the yogurt again. So that's at the right temperature. So I'll just give it a stir with my spoon. And I'm going to be stirring in. It hasn't actually formed much of a skin, which is good. So I'm just going to stir that in. The next thing, and you can also tell by smell when it's getting to the point. You don't want to scald the milk. You don't want it to boil. So you just want it to be under that. So it's got to be between 80 and 92 at the most. And I was about 85 at that time. Also on a low heat. It hasn't caught on the bottom of the pan. So I'm just going to pop that into the sink with some cold water because I want to bring the temperature down so that we can put the yogurt starter culture in, and that wants to be around 43 degrees. All right, so I'll be back in a sec. I'll just put this in the sink. And I'm stirring it in the bowl so that I'm getting more of the milk in contact with the wall of the bowl to get it to cool down quicker. So I'll just pop my thermometer back inside. And so I'm also going to now, I don't want to have too much of a temperature change between the milk and the yogurt culture. I don't want to kill it by thermal shock. So I'm going to put that in the water, just float it around in the sink as well with the pot. So the heat coming off the pot will heat the water and then that'll warm this up about the same. So that milk's already gone down to 58 degrees. So it's cooling quickly. So that's great. So now let's get on to how to do cheese. So as mentioned before, this is an acid set cheese. So that the whey that comes off is acidic. So I'm going to put these are my, you can use cheesecloth, you can use, as long as, you can use any kind of colander, as long as the holes aren't too big. You can see the shape of those curds. They're all shapes and sizes. And you can also see some of the thinner stuff that I did before is coming out through and then end up with water or whey will be in the bottom of this bowl. Might have to get some more of these little things. I would normally do this on the draining board, by the way. So that will, over the next couple of hours, that will sink down into these cups, and I'll just keep topping it up. So later, and you can see look at how the whey's coming out of that like that. It's coming out very fast. That's good. So I'll just put that there. So there's nothing I can do with that now until that settles down. I'll just rinse my fingers. Oh, wow. Milk's already at, I'll just give it a stir so that we don't have the wrong information. Oh, yeah, perfect. So milk's at 45 degrees. So we're very close to, I'll just put this away because there's nothing more that you can see with this. Maybe later, if it goes down a bit, I can show you one of the cups, but that's gonna be a few hours before that's ready to put out. Right. 44 degrees. So we want to start, maybe put a kettle on about now, because if, oh, that's something, I'm the only one doing yoga, aren't I? Exactly. That's looking really good now. I can see that the water level is, liquid level is right up to that's looking really good. So I'm going, in a few minutes, I'm going to put that in the jar. Anybody got any questions? All right.
How's Stacey's going, Jimmy?
Hey?
How's Stacey's going?
Yeah, how's Stacey's going?
Oh, that looks
Great.
Oh, pretty.
Can you put your hand in and give it a squeeze? How much liquid's coming out of it? Oh, yeah, that's great. That's
wow.
perfect. Perfect.
Jimmy, how long do you keep it in the jar for? Like, how long does it last for?
It can be anywhere from, like, you can start eating it from 3 days. It would have done its job on starting to change state, but it can be months and months.
Okay.
Many months. Like, in fact, you can buy sauerkraut in jars in continental stores that's been like 6 or 7 or 8 months old, and they might heat it a little bit. Okay, so the milk is at the right temperature now to stir in the yogurt and cream. Yogurt and milk powder. So I'm going to do that, and then I'll go back to I'll get this done, and then we're on to bottling up our sauerkraut. Just stir.
So, Jimmy, what flavour is this? Is it more like a Greek yogurt?
This is Greek yogurt.
Yep.
Right now is the time, if you wanted to flavour it or sweeten it, just before you incubate it or ferment it, now is the time that you would add your flavours. If you wanted to add some vanilla essence or you wanted to put some sugar in there, whatever flavour, maybe some berry syrup or something like that. So now is the time that you would do that. So I've mixed that right in. My kettle's almost boiled. I don't want it to boil completely because I want the water in the esky to be about 44, 45 degrees.
I think we'll have to do this again, Lauren, get Jimmy when we can open the centre up. Wouldn't this have been so good in the kitchen, smelling all of this? And
I was thinking the same thing, Marie, that we're missing out on the smells and and I wouldn't mind having a massage of that sauerkraut. And,
Okay, so I don't normally add any sweeteners to the yogurt that I make.
Because you're sweet enough, Jimmy.
Oh, thank you very much. Okay. Just do a quick check temperature. It's going to be around, still going to be around the 40-degree mark. Put my lid on. It's still going up. It's 37 at the moment, which is anything above 37 is good. So, okay, that's great. Now, I want to, you're going to lose heat straight away through thermal transfer. So I've boiled that. That's about 95 degrees at the moment because it's gone off the boil. So I'm going to put that in there, shut the lid, and we'll just let that sit for a couple of minutes, just to get the inside hot. So otherwise, because if I put the, it would conduct the heat out of the water into the esky, and I want the esky to be hot on the inside. So I'm preheating like you would your oven if you're cooking. So I'm preheating my esky. And I'm going to have to add some cold water to that to get that up to the temperature I want, because I want that to be about 45 degrees. Put about a litre of hot water in there at the moment. And I'm putting about a litre of cold water in. So should come out somewhere near where we want. So currently let's just give it a minute to. So the trick here is that when we put our container in, we don't want we don't want it to float around, but about here, up to this level in the water is good. So the same level as the milk in your container. That's not bad. It's 48. It's a little bit hotter than what I want, but it's coming down. If you're at 50 and above, you're likely to harm the cultures. So we want to, I'm going to cool it down a bit more. So it's at 48 at the moment. That's coming down now. 47, 47 and a half, 46 and a half. Okay, 40, 45. Okay, that's looking good. 44.6, perfect. So you do need to do any of these thermal processes, you do need a thermometer. All right, so that goes in. And that's it until tomorrow morning or even tonight. It only takes 3 hours actually to work. Now here's an interesting thing about fermenting with yogurt. If you ferment it for 24 hours, the lactobacillus will have eaten all of the lactose, making the yogurt lactose free.
Oh. So,
and there will be something like about, they talk about good gut bacteria being in the billions in a lot of the containers. They say it's got more than 300 billion good gut bacteria. If you fermented your yogurt for 24 hours, which commercial people can't do, you'd end up over 900 billion of good gut bacteria. So making stuff at home makes a big difference. So, all right, ready to jar up. Now, if you've chosen a jar that's too small, there's a you've got to push it to the bottom. There's an option. You can use something like this to push it down if you can't get your hand inside the jar. So here we go. Well, that's looking really good. And just push it down. Then grab some more. Pop that in. I'm going to add some of that liquid to the jars as well. So what we're doing in this process, we're actually firming down the contents to remove any large air pockets. It won't matter a big deal, but you get more in the jar, and it works. And you don't need as much. If you firm it down, the liquid that's come out of the vegetables themselves will be enough to cover them. Otherwise, then if it doesn't, then we'll have to do something called a wet brine. That's getting close to the maximum I want to put into that jar. Because what's going to happen in the process of creating a sauerkraut, there's going to be some outgassing. So some carbon gas is going to come out as little air bubbles. And that will, all these pockets will expand and it will push the liquid up. And so you're going to have to store it on a container. So I'll just pour some of that liquid into there. About half. And I'll put I'll just do the next one. I'm surprised at how not messy I'm doing this, by the way. You could, if you wanted to, you could add herbs as well, as besides just the vegetables. So this is just a mixed veg sauerkraut. All right. Cutting board and knife. Right, the leaves that we saved from earlier. So I'm going to use one and do a shape like up the sides and fold it in. So I'm going to cut one in, the largest one in half. So you can see that, I presume. So I'm just pushing that down under the shoulder of the jar. That was the rib of this part under there. I'll do the same with this one. Only I'm going to have to do something different here because it's going to be above there won't be any weight in it, but it might. And now I'm going to cut. You're going to throw these away later anyway. So I'm going to cut this to roughly the size that would fit in the a little bit smaller. All right, so that's, just push it in. Push down. Get under the lip, so under the lip of your jar. There we go. Okay, and I'll do the same to this one. I might use most of this leaf actually because it's a fair way down inside there. Okay, so that's ready. You can see that the liquid has come up on top, so that all of our sauerkraut is completely submerged. There's probably a little bit too much liquid in there because when the air bubbles expand, they will the water level, the liquid level will rise and come out the top. Or just pour that into the other jar. So that I don't want to make it. That's why I'm going to leave it on the plastic tray. I'll just get rid of that. And we'll look at the two methods that we can do here. If you haven't got enough room, or your jar has got a thin, doesn't have a shoulder. So that one, so on and then open a quarter of a turn. We don't want it to pressurize because it will outgas inside, it will build up pressure. So don't do it tight, not for the first 3 or so days. So that one, I need to put something on top of that so that I can keep that cabbage leaf down and all this sauerkraut under the water, under the liquid level. Okay, we'll get a cloth, we'll clean those up, and we'll do the thing that we should do. We'll write a date on it.
So Jimmy, you've said that this will be good to eat in 6 months' time if you haven't got.
If you look at that, oh yeah, but if you want, I mean, I would, people's own taste on how sour, because it will sour, it will get sour, more sour and more sour over time. So the idea is to just take some out and have a taste. And so the other thing that you're going to need to do is we talked, this is called dry salting, this process. All that liquid came out of our vegetables. The other method is called brining. So things like, I've got to find them now. They were here before. Pickles. You see whole pickles and tomatoes. That they're all brined. So it's a completely different process. What you do is you create that salt percentage in the liquid, and then you soak your vegetables in that. But this is called dry salting. This is called brining. So the pickles you buy in the Continental store are all brined. So I'll just dry off my jars. All right, So that's good stuff done. Now, write the date and what it is. So it's all right. And then they just leave them. They'll be fine. Just sitting on the bench, preferably away from sunlight. So in the pantry is a good spot. Right. I'm going to check the cheese. It's gone down a bit. You can look at the amount of whey that is in the. You can probably see it. See how much whey has come out of the cheese in the tray.
Yeah.
It's all come from the cheese. I'm going to top that back up with a little bit more, and I'm going to show you what that becomes. So you just keep adding it up as it's slowly under its own weight, draining out the whey. Right. This is what it will become like.
Oh, my tummy's grumbling.
So that's if you look up shabishu or quark or labinière, that's the type of cheese that is. It's really easy to make. You can do it at home. You can buy the cultures online. Cheesemaking.com is a good place to go. Graham Redhead, he's my mentor. He's the one that taught me how to make cheese. So I did a cheese making masterclass, by the way. So, and look at the texture on that. That's like your Philadelphia cream cheese. Tastes the same too. And that's just from a litre of milk.
Wow.
It's very nice on a biscuit. All right. I want to talk a little bit more now about something else. Kombucha, not that everybody likes it, or maybe you've taken it because it tastes like vinegar, but it doesn't have to taste like vinegar. I'll just move those up there out of the way. There's one that I've bottled. Another one more recent. So kombucha, and it's that we call is a fermented tea that has gone through a process of fermentation and trying to think what the right term is for it, but so you start off with some tea bags and some sugar. Wait a minute. Just black tea. You can change it to be, it normally starts off as black tea, but you can change it. And sugar. So what's happening here, this one's still not quite ready. There is a relationship between the liquid and the oxygen, which creates something called a SCOBY that sits on top of the liquid. That then is used into the next one to make a mother, to preserve it. So, because this is, this process is in an oxygen environment. So what it's trying to create, it's trying to create an environment where it protects itself, which is the yeast and sugars create a raft, which is a white mold. And so you should think about molds they're not all harmful. So white mold is actually the fastest of molds that grow, and it's not necessarily harmful. Black mold is bad, green mold is bad. Yellow and orange mold, not necessarily bad. So these, so I'm going to, so that's the first ferment. So my water's just boiled. Just give you a quick example on how this works. So obviously you're making a strong tea. You can do it in a Pyrex dish. So I'm going to just hot water, just use tea bags. I'll add a bit more hot water and get some sugar. So, and this is a slightly different process because it's more of a brewing process, I guess you'd call it, because you're growing yeasts. Normally I would put for a 1 litre jar, I would have 6 tea bags and about a third of a cup, anywhere up to half a cup of sugar. And we just leave that to one side. That's done. And let that cool to room temperature. So, I'll grab a glass. So, the longer we leave it in what's called F1, for fermentation 1, it will become more like vinegar, which some people like that flavour. I don't particularly like it, that flavour. So I normally ferment about a week at room temperature. It all depends on the type of how hot and cold your house is. So it's about anywhere from 3 to 10 days, roughly, depends on the temperature, but about 4 to 5 days is fine for that. So what I've done then is I've cut up some mandarin that I got from the garden, and that's what's called a second ferment. So what I'm adding here is I'm actually adding the sugars from the fruit and the flavour from the fruit. You can do with anything. You can use ginger, you can use any kinds of herbs that you want to add into there. They will infuse the liquid with their nutrients and flavours, and can have medicinal value by having, like, lowering, like if you made it with tea, chamomile flowers, you could have a calming effect. So it's all what you add to it. I generally just use fruit that is available. Most of the time it's lemons, because we've got heaps of lemons. So that's the, and I leave that for about the same. So that one goes into that one, that becomes that second stage. And then I filter all that off just with, in a funnel with chucks. I use that really, you know, just with the slots, and I've just put a chucks inside it, and that filters all of those bits of fruit out. And now this is the this stage here. It can happen in that stage too, but if I put the fruit in there, I wouldn't be able to get it out. So this is with the fruit removed. What happened? That one. So I'm going to, and these are soda bottles with a spring-loaded lid. So these are actually designed so if they get too much pressure, it just lifts the spring. So I'm going to pop the seal. Can you see that bubbling up? So that's F2 ferment with lemons and a bit of sugar, because to give it balance the sourness. Let the bubbles go down for a second. So obviously got lots of good gut bacteria in here. So it's a little bit, you've got to be prepared to deal with the mold. It's like, it's not bad mold, it's a good mold, but you're working with a mold. So that's ready. I'll give that a taste now. That's nice. That's not vinegary. That tastes like lemon. It's not sweet. I didn't put too much sugar in. So, and you'd only drink it. You've got to see how your body reacts to it. Maybe just a half a glass a day or a glass a day. You've got to work out how much you should have. But the way that I do it, it's not vinegary. It's up to the, like, it's just doesn't taste like kombucha that you've tasted perhaps, you know, because I don't want the vinegar flavor. I want the benefits, but I want to add fruit and flavors to make it taste nice. So, and that's one of my Yugoslav friends. He said to me when I gave him some, he says, "Oh, that's lemonade we used to have when we were kids." Like I thought, wow, like there's these. If you go to Cultures for Health online, you'll find places that can send you these. I mean, I've got plenty. Because every time you do one of these first ferments, you end up with with two layers of mold, which is the SCOBY, that you then use to start another one. So you end up with a hotel. I'll go and get the hotel. So I've been doing it for a while. There's a whole lot of scobies in there. And I just put a bit of the mother plant in there just to keep them active. But I've heard that you can dry them out. You can put them into the freezer, stuff like that. You just have to wait for it to come to room temperature. So that's kombucha. And I've done a couple of other things with cheeses. Now, we talked about acid set cheese, which is what that is. But you can also do, so I've made a feta that is brined in olive oil. And I've put herbs in there and chili. So there's a bunch of really lovely flavors in there. And that's got a really lovely creamy texture, because it all depends, like there's so many different styles of cheeses. You can choose to add cream. You can choose to add more culture for more flavor. And I've also, there's something I'm going to show you that you can make cheese without dairy milk. I'll just go and get it. I'll be back in a sec. Just give me a minute.
I'd love to know what it smells like at Stacey's place at the moment. I bet you the smells are pretty good.
You just pop these away, and I'll show you my little experiment that I did, because a couple of my friends are dairy intolerant. So I decided I'd have a try at making a cheese that was not made out of any dairy products.
Jimmy, I was just wondering, would it be possible if we just had a quick 5-minute break, just
Sure.
for anyone that needs to go to the bathroom or stretch their legs?
Fantastic.
All right, so if we come back at 25 past. Awesome.
Jimmy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I notice you've got your garlic hanging behind you.
Yeah.
How the heck do you keep it from sprouting?
It's this time of year, it's going to sprout.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, they're not, some of them haven't, some of them, but when I opened up, I used some the other day and some of them had started to sprout. So yeah, but and these are grown locally, about maybe 15 kilometres away, down to Pakenham. This is a really lovely flavoured some. It's like the purple variety. I really love that. So
yes,
but there's going to be a time when obviously we've used all the way down to here. But yeah, they will sprout.
Yeah, they want to grow again, I guess.
Yeah, and you should. Like these ones haven't started. I mean, some of the others I picked the other day, I made something and they had sprouted, but these ones haven't. So it's just a matter of time, but they will. But May is the best time to plant them anyway.
Yeah, I've planted some, but it was, I think, a bit late, but I've planted them anyway.
Yeah.
And fingers crossed, I'll wait and see.
Yeah.
I planted some last year, but I don't think I planted them at the right time. So
I know it's shortest day, longest day. I think that's a rule of thumb. Plant on the shortest day.
And
longest day.
I mean, I've got half of the ones that I planted have grown, which is great. But I help out at the local community garden, and all of the ones that we planted down there have taken. It's just slightly different temperature where I am compared to down at the community. I'm amongst big gum trees here, and down there they get a bit more open sun. And one of the tricks is to put them in the fridge for about 2 weeks before you want to plant them, to give them that simulation that they've gone through a winter. And then just before you go to plant them, just use a bit of liquid fertilizer, like just give them a bit of wetness with a little bit of liquid fertilizer, maybe some seaweed or something like that. And then plant them so that they're elevated, they're not bogged in the ground, because if they get too wet, they'll go mouldy and drop off.
I've got raised beds, so
that'll be fine.
Do they like potash? Do you know?
Oh, hang on. Just give me a minute. I might have that answer.
So, Jared, we might be all around to your place to have some sauerkraut.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to have a go at the sauerkraut. I like that one. So I didn't get this email. My fault. I didn't search my emails, and I missed a link to it. So I didn't know to have stuff ready to go to make it. But
Gerard will also be sending out a PDF with photo and instructions, and we'll probably send that out when we do our feedback survey, so we'll be able to attach those for you.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested to have a crack at the sauerkraut.
It looks delicious, just with all the chopping up. Stacey, what are the smells like at your house?
Oh, they're all in there now. But yeah, it was good. It's definitely beautiful when I was doing it. Yeah. So, yeah. How many minutes before they turn up? There's another 4 minutes, isn't it?
No, everyone should be back by now.
Okay. I pulled up on my laptop, and I'm going to read it to you. It's called the probiotic jar. It's from probioticjar.com. So it's an American site, and in there they give you the brining recipes for different size jars, and for cups. So, and they talk about, like, for preserving in brine, things like onions, garlic, broccoli. I'm a bit cautious about garlic, but because it goes off so quickly. If it goes brown, then you shouldn't eat it. Onions, garlic, broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, beetroots, horseradish, potatoes, all of those, green beans, etc. All of those only need 2% of their weight in or volume of salt. Like if it's so if you've got a litre jar, that's only about 20 grams. Okay. If you're doing whole things like cucumbers and peppers, then you need to be between 3.5% and 5%, because the peppers go mouldy fairly easily. I mean, I'm sure people have seen mold on them as soon as taking them out of the fridge. Sometimes when you open them up, you get they do mold easily. But self-brining vegetables like cabbage, beetroots, and things like that, then you're looking at, like what we did with different types of salt, about 5 grams per, or 2% is all it really needs. Above 2%, which is why I said between 2 and 5%, because I had some capsicum in there. So that's from the probioticjar.com. Just drop that down. There you are. So I want to show you now something that I made. Which is this is a brie that is made out of cashews.
Wow.
So I gave one of those to a friend, well, a couple of friends have been the recipient of that. Because I've got a couple of friends who are either lactose intolerant, or they're vegan, or they're dairy free.
So what does that taste like? Nutty,
It's
I would
a
suppose.
little bit nutty, but it doesn't, you don't think you're eating cashews. It's definitely not dairy, but yeah. So have we got any questions from anybody?
Jimmy, your kombucha,
Yeah.
I think I missed the stage between the teacup and the stage 1 fermenting, the big jar.
Yeah.
What happens after the teacup?
All right. Give me a sec. That actually is warm enough to do, so.
So that's black tea and sugar.
Black tea and sugar. So I'm going to hold back the, I might make a mess here because I haven't got my braining board. Hang on.
So you need a starter, like you were saying, a SCOBY.
Yes, you do need a SCOBY.
For this, yeah.
Gerard, if you put a thing out on Facebook, and I'm not sure whether Jimmy agrees with this, but part of the philosophy behind kombucha is that if you have if you have spare scobies, you give them to other people, like it's like a gift.
That's right.
So if you put it out on social media, you'll probably find someone who's local will provide you with a starter SCOBY. And just be aware, in the wintertime, the SCOBYs don't do as well as what they do in the summer, where the heat is more, they get quite thin, don't they, Jimmy, in the winter?
Like that one there. So I'm going to excuse my hand. That's what it looks like.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to take that and I'm just going to put it in there like that. That's done. That's it.
Yeah.
And what you do need to do, especially in summer, is you do need to cover it so that you don't get any insects in there. I'll use the lid that I had before and just dry it. So that will grow and create one of them. So you end up with 2. Every time you do this, you end up with a spare one, which is why the philosophy is give one away. So I just use paper towel and a rubber band, and I write on it that it's F1, and I normally write the date, because today is the 28th, so I'll do the 28th.
So Jimmy, you've just done it in a smaller jar because that's what you have, because the jar next to it is double the size.
I would normally do that size.
Okay.
But it will work exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I will end up getting from one of these, I will end up with 2.5 bottles of those soda bottles.
Yeah.
I'll end up with 2.5 of those from that process after the second ferment. So that's how you do the first ferment. And now that just sits in the shade, and that'll become in next week. I might put I'll empty out 3/4 of that, take the SCOBY out, start another one, and then just slice some fruit and put the whole fruit in. I slice lemons or mandarins or plums and just give the same thing, small surface area, make them small, slice them, throw them all in, and they will get, because you're still talking about the growing nature of what's in here, you will get a SCOBY growing amongst the fruit that's sitting on the top. I just pick it up and put it in the compost when I try to get it all out in one go. And you will sometimes end up with, I've got one here. You will sometimes end up with a little one growing on the top of your bottle. But it's only yeast. It's nothing really to it. You can swallow it or you can just pour it off.
Yeah.
You know? So
okay.
It will ferment, providing it is at above 10 degrees. So when you've got it to the flavour that you like, I normally leave this one here. It's been like November last year. I've left that out. I've got a cupboard outside. I make all these in, and then when I want to have them, I bring them inside. And that one was about 2 weeks ago. It's got the way I've done it, there's hardly any vinegar flavour there. I've got the fairly strong lemony tartness.
Yes.
But you can change that by working with what you've got. One of my friends who I gave SCOBYs to, he uses oranges and he doesn't have to add any sugar because there's enough sugar in the fruit. It all depends on the fruit or what you're doing. If it's a sour thing, then you probably need to, if you want it to fizz, then you'll probably need to add a little bit of sugar. So there's not really there's hardly any measurable alcohol in that. We're talking maybe less than 1% is I've heard, but it's very hard to measure.
Yeah.
All right. I wanted to just touch on some of the things that we talked about throughout, just so you have a little bit more understanding. So I'll move my things away. We go back to talking about the probiotics.
I don't know about everybody else, but my mouth's been watering looking at from the sauerkraut to the yogurt to the cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll definitely have a crack at the sauerkraut. Kombucha looks a wee bit more involved, but anyway.
I mean, yeah, but the sauerkraut, anybody can do it, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just grab my notes again.
I would like to try that cashew cheese. Yum.
Yes.
You'll need to get some cheese making, some geotrichum, which is it helps grow the white mold. It's quite an involved process because you've got to create a cheese cave out of I use an esky, and you've got to create a high humidity environment to encourage the white mold to grow. You've got to turn the cheese every day, and you've got to check the temperature every day. I just use an ice block and change the ice block every day. It stays around about 10 degrees, which is what you need. To any warmer and the cheese will grow black mold. So you need 14 degrees is probably maximum. And it will work in the fridge. It just takes longer. And you're talking about 10 days for that mold to grow. And then that also has an effect on that's why it doesn't taste like cashews, because the white mold culture has worked in with the paste of, because I soaked the cashews overnight in water, and then once in raw cashews, and then I pour hot water over them just to kill anything that was landed on them overnight, and then I blend them to a paste, which takes about 15 minutes, and then I add the cheese making culture to give it a bit of flavour, the aromatic flavour I told you about before, the mesophile that grows at room temperature. And I added a little bit of some white mold to it. There's a brining step similar to this, where you soak them in the brine for about 5 hours and keep turning them over so you get the outside salty, and also because that helps prevent what happens. What does it prevent? Pathogens. So it helps kill anything on the outside, but the mold grows from within the cheese and sits on the surface, and then you just keep turning it. About 3 weeks, you've got yourself a beautiful brie made out of cashews. Yeah. So I'll just touch on what's happening here with the probiotics a little bit more. So we've got both what we talked about before. This aids with digestion. So and it also creates probiotics, which are gut bacteria that stay in the gut. But you've also got some prebiotic going on there. So yogurts have a little bit of prebiotic. So what they are, they're fibers that your body converts. I'll just read a little bit about those here. Probiotics and prebiotics. Both prebiotics and probiotics are important for human health. However, they have different roles. Probiotics, these are live bacteria found in certain foods and supplements. They can provide numerous health benefits, which people take probiotic tablets and things like that. So, and especially to rebalance your gut, especially if you've been taking antibiotics. So prebiotics, these substrates come from types of carbs, mostly fiber, that humans can't digest. The beneficial bacteria in the gut eat these fiber. The gut bacteria, collectively referred to as gut flora or gut microbiota, or microbiome, some people call it, perform many important functions in the body. Eating balanced amounts of both probiotic and prebiotic can help ensure that you have the right balance of these bacteria to keep your gut microbiota healthy. So in summary, the probiotics are beneficial bacteria found in certain foods and supplements. Prebiotics are the ones that have fiber that then help the digestive system. The sole two ingredients needed to make ferment foods are fresh vegetables and salt. The fresh vegetables provide the necessary bacteria and carbohydrates, while the salt has multiple functions in a ferment. First, salt exists osmotic pressure on the surface that draws out the liquid, pulling the water out of them and then moving into the cells to take its place. So we've actually replaced the liquid that's come out with brine, the salty brine. This helps to create a brine. Also makes the vegetables firmer. Salt also inhibits spoilage, organisms that would turn our vegetables into rotten mush instead of fermented goodness. So vegetables submerged in a salty brine soon begin bubbling with fermenting activity in a variety of lactic acid bacteria. So we've got lactic acid in yogurt, we've got the lactic acid from the fruit and vegetables. So that's all good. They acidify the brine quickly, which then inhibits any competition from spoilage of any organism. So that nothing will grow in that because of the content of the salt and now the lactic acid that is in the liquid. So the two main fermenting techniques we've got here is dry salting, which is what we've just done. That refers to mixing finely sliced, chopped or shredded vegetables with salt and letting them macerate or massage them to release their juices. Sauerkraut is the classic dry salted ferment. When dry salting vegetables, shred them very finely with a sharp knife, grate or throw in a food presser. That's another thing you could do. The shredded vegetables are mixed with salt, then produced and packed firmly into the jar. They release their juice, which submerges them and starts the healthy fermentation process. Dry salted vegetables work well with 1 teaspoon of fine salt per 1 kilogram of vegetable. So it does depend on the, as I read before about capsicums, because they spoil easily. Brine is used when you want to leave the vegetables whole or in sticks or chunks. The dill pickles are the classic brine ferment for brining. Large pieces of vegetables are packed tightly in a jar and then salt water brine is added to cover them for brine ferments. Plan on using about 500 grams of vegetables per litre and about 2 cups of brine. You know, you do need to cover them. So which I was saying before, like if the liquid doesn't come over the surface, you need to make a brine of about 5% and pour it on top. Otherwise you will get some mold growing on the cabbage leaves that we didn't chop up. They will have some mold growing on them. They may still have mold on them, but when you take it off, just throw it away and then you've got all your sauerkraut down here. This one hasn't got any mold growing on it. It's discoloured around here, but it hasn't grown a mold because I've got enough liquid in the jar that it has prevented that from happening. And the same with this one. Enough liquid to prevent the any growth or oxygen coming into contact with the vegetables. So going on from that, which works well for most vegetables, veggies that have high water content, such as cucumbers, capsicums, need a stronger brine, 1.5 teaspoons of salt per cup of water, or expressed as a percentage of 2% or 5%, which is we've done between 2 and 5%. And that's it from me. So has anybody got any questions that they want clarified?
No, thank you very much. Enjoyed your presentation. Yeah. Thanks, Jimmy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was really good.
Thank you. It was really good and informative. Enjoyed it.
Thank you,
I'm inspired to
Jimmy.
have a go at the sauerkraut.
I just want to let everybody know that if you've enjoyed today's session, to receive any future newsletter or program updates, if you go to our website, which is www.ballabella.com.au, at the bottom of the page, you can click on newsletter sign up, and that way you'll be kept informed when we're running our exciting programs. So I'd just like to say thank you to Jimmy. I have found the presentation fascinating, and I really think I'm going to go home and try and make some sauerkraut because it looks delicious. And we'd love to probably talk to you about when we're allowed to meet in person, running some of these workshops as face-to-face workshops. It would be great. So I would just like to invite everybody that's here that hasn't already registered. At 12:30, we'll be doing composting and recycling workshop over using this Zoom link with Jennifer Lewis from the City of Casey. I think that the composting and recycling really fits in well with what we've been doing with the Love Food, Hate Waste workshops for Science Week. So once again, Jimmy, thank you so much for today. And hopefully I'll see you all back on Zoom at 12:30 for the presentation by Jennifer. Now,
just a sec. I've prepared step-by-step guide for both the sauerkraut and the yogurt, which I'll send to you, Lauren, later today.
All right then, and what I've said is when we send out our feedback survey link, I will also attach Jimmy's instructions to those for you. So thank you, everyone.
I'm glad you enjoyed it, and don't be afraid of giving it a go.
Thank you.
Definitely not. You've made it look so easy. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Lauren,
Yes,
just
Gerard.
stay on the same thing for the composting one.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I'll talk to you later on, Lauren.
Okay then, Jimmy. I might give you a call later on this afternoon. You're not busy, are you?
No, that'll be fine. I mean,
I've
got some cheese to finish.
Oh, yum.
So, Jimmy, would you be happy, this is Marie, I'm the manager of Balla Balla. Would you be happy with us to share this on our YouTube channel?
Of course, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
No problem. And it's been a pleasure and a bit of fun. I'm glad I got a lot out of it. I'm glad that I was able to share some knowledge with people and give them the confidence they can do this, so. I
admire that, Jimmy, because the Russian chat that you asked about preserving tomatoes, I really don't like that when someone won't share knowledge.
Yeah, but I
admire someone that shares knowledge.
I managed to figure it out.
Yeah. Good on you.
Yeah.
That's determination for you, Jimmy.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm going to sign off now. So,
bye-bye.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Thanks, Jimmy. Bye.
Bye-bye.
You. Bye.
Hi, Jennifer. How you going?
I'm good, thanks. Oh, Jimmy was fabulous.
Yeah.
Really good.
Okay, well, I might drop back in for the composting one. We'll see how I go.
I'll see you then, Jared.
Bye-bye.
See you, Jared.
You're sitting outside, Jennifer. That looks beautiful.
No, this is my backyard, but I took a photo and uploaded it.
It looks very pretty.
I would love to do this outside, but my technology doesn't accommodate that. And then I've got the kids and the dog and the chicken. It wouldn't end well.
I tried outside and I forgot about the wind noise.
Yeah. Oh, the wind kills it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So even the slightest breeze ruins it. So yeah. No, that won't work. Do you want to go have a break and I'll meet you back in 10 minutes beforehand, or?
10 minutes beforehand, that'd be wonderful.
All right, so what have we, 12:20?
Yeah.
All right, go get yourself some delicious lunch. If you
I want some sauerkraut now.
I was looking forward to the sauerkraut and cheese for lunch today.
Yeah.
So Lauren, will you stop this recording and then start again, just so they're two separate ones?
You'll need to stop it, Marie, and what I'll do is I will sign in as you for Jennifer's session, so I can press the recording button.
So I didn't sign in as me. I just signed in with the link.
Okay, well, it does have next to your name, it says Marie Cullinan, host and recording. So
well, that's why I was asking about the recording, because I didn't press the recording button.
Okay, when I set the session up through Zoom, I pressed it so it was automatically recording, and because you're signed in as the host, it will record to your PC. So when you leave the meeting, it will do a conversion process.
So what would you like me to do? Because I'm just going to leave because I can't attend the one this afternoon. I'm just going to leave the laptop on.
Yeah.
So
once you leave the meeting, that will start the recording process. And what I will do is I'll sign out as Lauren and sign back in as Marie, so I can record the second session.
Oh, okay. So you want me to log out of this meeting altogether?
Yeah.
All right.
And then I'll log in as you and I'll change my name.
Very
All right,
good.
then.
Well done. Well done.
Okay.
Sorry, Jennifer, I can't attend this afternoon, but I will watch the recording because I am actually very interested.
Oh, that's okay. That's fine. It's a quick one to do. Like 3 hours of content in an hour. So it's.
Yeah, which is great. I've got my little caddy. I'm in another LGA. So I've already got my little caddy and I use it all the time.
Excellent.
But I put it into my green bin, but I actually need to get a compost bin to have outside. So
it's okay.
Well,
when we can, I spoke to Lauren, we'll have to get in and do it in person when we can.
Yeah.
Fabulous.
I think it's really striking a chord with people at the moment. You know, the impact that we're having on our environment, and we can make a difference just with our own small steps. So, I'm going to leave the meeting now, and I may sign back in as Marie in about 10 minutes time.
No worries.
Okay.
All right. Go get a break. I'll
See
see you soon.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.